Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Trading Takes. Tonight, I'm joined by the usuals, Chris and Judah. How you both doing?
Doing great.
All good, all good. Tonight, we're going to talk about big losses, big options trades, and for that, we need a big guest. Tonight's guest has promised us he's going to take a break from talking about Ozempic 24 hours a day. It is, of course, Mr. Sang Lucci. How you doing?
What's up, man? Now I know why you called my ass. Now I know why you called my ass. Big losses, options, and Ozempic 24 hours a day. That was a great intro, man. I love that, Sam. What's going on, guys?
Thank you. Now, Chris, do we want to kick off with this question? It's a big, hot question.
Yeah. So we all know that Sang's an incredible trader, and we got to see some of this trading firsthand at Traders for a Cause this year in Vegas when he was on the bid for a pickleball racket that ended up getting auctioned off, and you were bidding $2,000 on it, and I think it ended up going up to $7 or $8 grand before someone actually snagged it. But we got to see you, all the emotions in action on that one.
I mean, it was a great story. It was a great story because, again, I mean, we were all there for charity. I mean, granted, we were all there to see each other. It's kind of like this Traders for a Cause is kind of like this cool place that we have, this cool community that we have that we can just kind of check in on every year, and come out from all over the world and come see traders and come talk to, because again, what we do is somewhat lonely, I would say, and we don't really have these smaller communities around where we are. So Las Vegas, Traders for a Cause, we're out there, and the money that we're spending and the money that we're giving, we know it's all going for a good cause. So it all makes sense that we all kind of show up there. So there was some silent auction items, right? And there were some auction items there. And I play a lot of pickleball. I play tennis. This is my jam, man. This is what I do all the time. If I'm not trading, I'm on the beach, I'm playing beach tennis, or I'm playing pickleball, something like that. Or I'm drinking and then I'm getting ready to play pickleball again or something like that. So I see the racket and I'm like, dude, I gotta get this stuff, right? I'm the first bid. And it's going for like $180. So I put in like $100. But I announce it, right? Because I'm the MC and I'm on stage and I'm messing around. Obviously, I want to get people active in bidding for the other items. And I say, all right, bid for all these other items. Just don't bid on my shit, right? Just don't bid on this racket because I'm coming home with this racket. And soon enough, the bids just started ticking in, right? So then I see the racket at like $170. So I'm like, all right, fine. I put a bid in for like 200. And then what happened? Nobody could have foreseen. But again, it's all a vehicle that goes to the nonprofits here that we support. So I understand why it happened. Somebody put an auto bidder to bid it up $25 every, 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes. Because again, with these mechanisms, you can just put that in there. I think there was two of them. So while I'm on stage doing whatever the hell it is, and while we're looking at the presentations and everything, the bid's up to like $1,000. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Of course, the racket is not worth no $1,000. And then it became a vehicle here to just, manifest some money for the nonprofits. And that was what was really cool about it. And then all of a sudden, the bids were like 2,000. I put in a bid at 2,000 and told everyone to just stop it. And then it kept going. We were out that night. Everybody was getting messed up. We even decided to open the bids for another day, and it still went. We were all, I remember being drunk at like 1:00 in the morning somewhere in Las Vegas, looking at the bid and looking at it like $6 grand. I'm like, come on. So again, I mean, it was a great vehicle to raise money, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we all know you were drunk because you didn't turn up the next day.
Oh,
not till like midday or something.
Ooh. It's like I did so much talking that night, though. You know what I mean? I did so much talking that day. It was ridiculous, man. So I couldn't make it, man.
No, and the best thing is you were outbidded by, I think he's German. So you got outbidded by a European. I don't even know if we play that game. I got to be honest. I've never.
Do you know that gentleman? Have you met that gentleman before that day? By the way.
No. I know him through Twitter, but never before.
Yeah.
He only came to outbid you. Now he's gone. You'll never
Yeah,
see him.
he said he's going to come back and do the same next year.
But it was amazing. It was amazing how we had people from all over the world, come there. There were people from Singapore there, Germany, all over Europe, all over the States, of course, Latin America. It was amazing. It was really amazing. And those events are always, and they put on a great event. So those events are always just great for us as a community.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And I thought I was the only European in the building, but there was,
Nope.
it was a handful.
That last year was special though, man. I mean, it went to a whole nother level last year. So I really, I was really impressed.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Right, let's get stuck into last week's contest. And congratulations to Mike Manning 929. So every week, Sang, we asked people to guess the chart. Or that was our old contest. We asked people to guess the chart. Mike was the first person to get it right. SVXY. Do you remember this?
No.
You don't? Chris,
No.
do you remember it?
Yeah, I didn't trade it, but I was aware of it because I watched the Scott Manzo video, and I think that he had a trade that was really difficult on this or something, but some fixed product that blew up.
And how did it blow up? Like, what's the mechanism there?
I don't exactly know. It might have been like they might have done like a consolidation or something, like rolling it or resetting it, or there was an odd situation with it, but it was definitely like an outlier situation, and some people got caught really bad in it.
What's the ticker on this?
SVXY.
So it's like a levered short fix or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's wild.
Wow. I remember this happened with TVIX though too. The same damn thing happened with TVIX. And that was years ago. That was like 5 years ago. History always repeats itself, my friend.
That's pretty much what Hollow did yesterday. Instead of going down 10x,
it did the opposite.
Went up 10x, yeah.
Oh, I saw that, Hollow. Sometimes I'll roll around in y'all small cap worlds when somebody shouts out something in my chat room. And I pulled up this Hollow, and I'm like, dude, how do I get the shares to short this freaking thing? But even then, it wasn't that easy. And you only had seconds off the open here. It's almost like you had to be in it. So you still got to be quick with this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Hollow was pretty tough this morning.
Yeah.
And we decided to mix it up a little bit this time, just because pretty much we've guessed the chart. First person takes the prize. This week, we want to know your biggest aha moment or your breakthrough moment in trading. We don't care if you've been trading 1 month, 25 years. I don't know how long you've been trading, Sam, but you can have a go as well. Whoever wins, you win a month of IU. And just lastly, Mike, email Tyler@investorsunderground.com to claim your free month of IU. Let's get stuck into the show. So, new traders, the first thing they hear is cut losses quickly. Sang, why do we still take big losses?
Oh, man. I mean, you're talking to the right guy, obviously, man. I've been in quite the drawdown here. And, it's like to your previous question, for those who are going to answer the question and hopefully get a free month of Investors Underground or whatever. It's what's that big aha moment sort of thing. I don't think there's ever just one moment, because it's almost like you keep having that moment. Human beings, I believe, and again, this is my train of thought, it's like we have to relearn the same things over and over and over again. Why? Because we tend to fall into similar patterns that we have been in before, just like history repeats itself in the stock market over and over and over. And you would think we would get smarter, so to speak, and we'd be able to see these things coming. And oftentimes we don't. We're on the tail end of these things. I believe that depending on a person's situation, life situation, or whatever the hell it is, it's very easy to go back or to sort of deprogram yourself or to lose some of the insights that you've had. And you have to kind of go back, do the same work that you had to do to get to those aha moments in the first place, right? How does somebody arrive to an aha moment, by the way? You don't just fucking arrive there. You have to act, you have to trade. If we're talking about trading, you got to sit down and you got to trade. Otherwise, how are you going to have an aha moment? Where the hell the shit is going to come from? It ain't going to come from nowhere. So you got to take losses. You got to take wins. You got to take something. And then, boom, you have that aha moment. It's like, oh, this is what I got to do. because it applies to the particular market you're in. It applies to your understanding of yourself at that time, right? And now you can sort of piece things together and be like, all right, this is what I got to do to make money here. Now, markets change all the time, correct? Our emotional makeup changes all the time, depending on how confident we are in those moments that we're living. All the other shit that's happening in your life also has an effect on how you're trading. If you talk to a lot of traders when they're going through a fucking divorce or something like that, ask them how their freaking trading was. They'll tell you it's complete shit. Or if they're going through X, Y, and Z, they'll tell you it's complete shit. And they got to go back to the drawing board. They got to go back to the drawing board and find that aha moment again. So to your answer of why do we keep taking these big losses? I think it's a question of what we go through in life, man. And life often puts us into these situations where we have to reinvigorate. We have to find ourselves again and again and again. So we're habitually going back into similar patterns. We're habitually losing maybe the discipline that we had. We're habitually having to find these things again and again and again. And I'm saying from my perspective, I don't know if there's freaking machines out here that don't experience the same shit that I do, but that would be my answer, man. That would be my answer. And for me specifically, I've been juggling tons of other businesses and a lot of other personal things, and that had a huge weight on my trading performance. And now I've kind of had to come back and be like, all right, get your shit together kind of thing. So that's why we take that, to me, is why we still continue to take big losses, no matter if all the books, and even if you put a sign in front of your damn computer that says cut your losses and all that shit, you put the sign in front of your computer because you do it all the time, right? You wouldn't put the fucking sign in front of your computer if you didn't do the shit all the time, right? Otherwise, why would you put it up there? It's the same reason why we sit there and read these quotes and people put all the same quotes under their Instagram posts. Nobody would put those fucking quotes in there if everybody could execute on it. If nobody had the problem of patience, what your boy here just showed you.
The only word I got down here.
If nobody had the problem of patience, do you think he would have wrote it and put a damn sticker on his computer screen? No. So I think it's a human thing. You're talking about a human thing that needs to be, assessed constantly and needs to be analyzed constantly. So that's my answer to this, if that makes any sense.
No, that's cool. And you touched on like having perhaps a lot of stuff going on outside of trading.
Sure.
Are you going to learn from this lesson? Perhaps next time shit happens, are you going to not trade, or do you think you're just going to be like, I'm still going to trade, it's going to be different this time?
Sam, sometimes you're on it, man. Sometimes you ain't. Sometimes you're on it, and sometimes you just ain't. And if there's I think the next generation of me and other traders, especially what I'm working on, is that you need some outside counsel, whether it's in the form of automation, it could be that, or it's in the form of accountability partners, it could be that. It's in other forms that are outside of you, because one thing that gets proven over time is that you cannot trust yourself 100% of the time, right? You can trust yourself to make, the same bad mistakes over and over and over again. That you can trust yourself on. But to become better incrementally over time and not make the decision coming, down the line, I think it's too much to ask of a human being. I really think it is, unless there's some outside influences, outside controls, outside metrics, outside risk systems, and things like that.
Yeah, I tweeted about just the importance, for me, just having a max loss. Even something simple as that has changed my trading, because I don't have those days where I go, I'm not going to get to sleep tonight.
Sounds good.
Chris, do we hear cut losses quickly too much?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a broad statement, but there's so many nuances to that. It's like, well, cut losses quickly on what? On options, on stock, on low floats. You have to be a little bit more specific. Like the way that I would break it down is that there's two reasons why people don't cut losses, and it's either a problem, like Sang was saying, like with a pattern with themselves, or it's a problem with the vehicle that they're trading, and they're just not trading the right vehicle that is able to be, risk controlled. So it's either someone's in a drawdown or in a loss, and they just can't bring themselves to actually take the loss. And that's happened to me before, where especially after a drawdown, you can be so like discouraged or so frustrated that you're like, I can't even bring myself to take this loss, and then it gets even worse and worse. And so that's not a problem with the stock or anything. That's a problem with yourself. And like Sang was saying that you need outside counsel, or you need to really do a self review to break a pattern like that, because that's the most dangerous one, where you're not even trading your own system or other things. You're taken off track. And then the other part of that is that if you're doing okay, but you're still taking big losses, are you trading the wrong thing? So are you trading, short dated options where you can't really control risk in the same way? Are you trading low float China stocks or pump and dumps that are not able, they're halting up, halting down? Because even if you're ready and willing to take a loss, you might not be able to, because the structure of the vehicle is not appropriate for you to be trading, at least with the size that you are. So I think people have to look at the market, the vehicle that they're trading, and then also themselves, and determine where's that issue coming from.
Yeah, I would even add to that by saying that once you're in the drawdown, the one thing you don't want to admit is that you're way more susceptible to your emotions than you are when things are going well. And what that looks like, by the way, is that you start trading more shorter dated options, and you start trading more riskier things, and you start doing all those things. Why? Because subconsciously, all you want to do is recoup the shit. All you want to do is recoup something. You're trying drastically to recoup something. And you're telling yourself, all right, I just need this 1 or 2 to get back, and blah, 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 and I'll be good. And that's the perpetual cycle that you sit in. And chaos is the end to that cycle, right? And the end of that cycle is complete, obviously, blow up the account, or you're able to stop midway somewhere and take an assessment and be like, all right, maybe I need to chill the fuck out, kind of thing. And unfortunately, most people, we head straight to the other extreme, which is human behavior.
Yeah, no, great points too. So, Sang, this might be sounds like quite a recent topic.
Sure.
What does it feel like to take one of those losses?
Man, obviously it doesn't feel good. I mean, but what are we talking about, right? We're talking about emotions, right? If we're talking about the emotional side of things, right? You take this thing, you take this drawdown, you take this loss, and the immediate thoughts are obviously the most negative, right? Because obviously we're talking about extreme situations. So the immediate thoughts are always the most negative. The most negative being, fuck, how, look at what I did to myself. There's feelings of shame, guilt. There's feelings of fear. Of course, fear is going to be a huge one, right? Because the fear is, can I do this again? Can I even get this back? Look at all this time that I just burnt and all this kind of stuff. So all that shit, lack of confidence, all that stuff just comes out the wazoo. So your weakness now, you're at your weakest point. You're at the weakest point no matter what, once these emotions hit. It takes some time, of course, because you got to feel them, right? And then, unfortunately, once the emotions hit, then the thoughts come. And the thought is a never-ending cycle, right? So now you're talking about you can't sleep. You're talking about you shut off to your friends and family kind of thing because you don't want to be seen, right? Because now all that guilt, shame, fear, and everything, it shows now in your energy, right? So you don't want to go out to the gym. You don't want to do any of this shit because you're ashamed of yourself. You're fucking embarrassed. It is what it is. You got to go through that stuff. So then all the thoughts turn into the energy changes and all that kind of stuff. Now you're a completely different person. So now the process is you have to leave that behind in order to move forward. Now, that's the ugliest process because you know what you need to do, but you can't do it because of the weight of all the emotions and the thoughts and all that kind of stuff. And a thought is very intangible, but it's very heavy, right? Physically heavy. It's physically draining. You can tell just by looking at somebody, just by feeling somebody's body energy. That's what they look like. You can tell how much weight they got, the weight of the world on their fucking shoulders. That's what a trader in drawdown looks like or feels like. And that process is ugly. That's the ugliest process, hands down. The one every day where you have to battle with your mind to tell it to shut the fuck up and those thoughts are worthless, right? You have to get to the point where you prove that those thoughts are completely worthless. They're untrue. They're not true, right? Why do I have to fear? Why do I, why does any of this have to happen? Right? Because you got to get over it. And there's no way you're going to be able to get over any of that shit until you have these mental battles here, right? Because your one side is going to be filled with the same negative thoughts every single day as soon as you wake up. By the way, the mornings are the most depressing. the mornings are hands down the most depressing, right? Because you wake up, that you got the weight of the world on your shoulder. You don't even want to get up out of fucking bed. And, because you got to face all this. You got to face life, and you got to, life has already beat you the fuck up, which is what you think, right? It might not be true, but this is what you think. So that's the weight that you're carrying. And it takes a while. So for some people, it takes years. Some people, they never come back. Some people, it's real quick because they already have the mechanisms. For me now, it's much quicker than it was before. But do I still have the shame that it's happening still after so long? Of course, man. But then you look, but then I get, where I get the confidence from? You look across the board, and it doesn't matter what level of the game you're at, whether you're $100 billion trader, $1 billion trader, 100 million, 50 million. There's people blowing up and going crazy all day, every day, and it's just the nature of the game. So once you get through that process of beating yourself up, and that, like I said, that process is ugly, and it's a tough one to get through. Then you start detaching from all those thoughts. Then you start to realize, like, all right, I never lost my skills, right? I still have the skill set. I still have the ability to do it. My mind was just in a fucking horrible gutter. And you kind of detach yourself from those thoughts and feelings. And that's when you start to be like, all right, I can do this again, or I can pivot to something else, or I can, I still am me. I still am another version of myself. I can still do things. So it's all about building that confidence back. And we're talking about a process that takes some time, and it takes a lot of mental work. And, other people are quicker than others, but that's what I would say it looks like. It's not pretty. It ain't pretty for sure. You know what else, though? The guys who have more of the cash available to them, right? So even if you take a blow up, but let's say you work at a prop, or let's say you work at a hedge fund, and somebody's still willing to, give you a little billfold here, it's much easier for them because your next trade is coming around the corner, right? But you won't find a lot of backers like that. SMB, for example, they're one of the best props out there, hands down, because to their good traders, they'll they might lose 2 million or 3 million. But the next big trade is right around the fucking corner. So SMB doesn't care as long as you still prove that you can shoot. But if you're doing this with your own money, that's the difficult part, because if you got no chips left, how the fuck are you going to play? So now you got to figure out how to get the chips again so you can start back, so it's much more daunting for, a regular sort of retail trader here versus a Kathy Wood who can be down, $14 billion and nobody gives a shit, and they still keep giving her money, and she just averages down to the same shit over and over. You know what I'm saying? So process is different for everybody, but that's what it looks like. That's more or less what it looks like for a drawdown that gets ugly.
Yeah, it ain't pretty, that's for sure. And Judah, how are you recovering in the days after?
Well, that's exactly what I said. It's just a daily sort of process. And again, what'd you say?
No, I was saying usually the drawdowns, like, you got to just keep them small enough where it's still part of your process. So, like,
Right.
if you shouldn't be taking like a massive loss anyway.
Shouldn't.
Like, it's not. You should only be doing it if it's part of your rule or if it's part of your plan. But other than that, I mean, you obviously deviated from your plan, which means that it should only happen once if it does happen. But I think it happens because people don't set these hard stops. Everything's a mental stop to them. And mental is exactly what it is. It's mental. And as it comes down and goes through, they think, like, because it starts to play with them. And everyone puts their stop losses at similar areas. So it starts to soak, it starts to build, and now it's like hovering around their stop loss. So they think maybe I'll bounce there. And then you get that next flush and leg down. And then they don't know what to do at that point because they're already down a certain point and they continue to stay in there. And that's where the losses occur and get bigger. And recovering from that, I mean, it's you gotta. There's a chart out there that says, like, if you lose 50% of your account, you need 100 to get it back, and there's all these things.
Yep.
So, like, you don't want to be losing that much because then it's gonna take you a week to lose back to make back like a 10-minute trade, and you'll always be like chasing your own tail there. So, like, you need to have those rules of cutting your losses to a certain point. Whereas if you take a trade and it does well, it makes up for 5 losses.
Absolutely. And again, there's different ways of doing this. You know what I mean? Everybody trades differently. And for everybody it's different. But to what Judah's point is, and Sam also alluded to it as well. Put that fucking stop loss in. But guess what? You can depend on. Guess what? You can depend on. You can depend on human nature to not put that shit in there and to move that shit and to get it out or to move the price or whatever. You can always depend on a human being to fuck that up. You can always depend on a human being to not be 100%. All right. And even if they're 90%, 80%, that 20% that they don't, it'll still kill them. You know what I mean? So again, we're always talking about varying degrees of that fine line that, again, if you stay on the right side of it, everything is all good. One step on the wrong side of it, I mean, there was that famous quote from 1987 Wall Street, not these bullshit Wall Street movies that happen now. Marv was saying, like, we're all just one trade away from misery or something like that, and these guys were brokers. They weren't even traders. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's true. It has some truth to it.
I mean, and speaking of, you're only one trade away from misery. This is quite a good example. Yesterday, I think we started like sub $2 and we hit highs of 50 on HOLO, and that's just such a good example of anyone with, well, what's the expression? FO, was it FAFO, which I'm sure Sang's heard of before. But if you've got like some sort of mental stop or whatever, you let it work. I'll just see how it is. Before you know it, you're in after hours you're having a tough time.
And like the interesting thing about this one is that other than the morning move, it never really halted. Like people didn't get stuck into circuit halts. This thing was just grinding and soaking and pushing and flushing and soaking. And then it just started to push at the end of the day and then in after hours. But there was no pure like halt, like after halt and going up. It was like just slowly grinding. I mean, people had time to like slowly get back out, but they didn't.
I mean, this would just be stubborn for sure. There were a lot of clues yesterday, I thought.
I had guys in my office, in this office, and remember, I got a co-working space down here, so there's 14 desks here and a bunch of traders, small cap guys, options, whatever, crypto guys, and two of them blew up on top. One of them blew up on whatever that HKD was or whatever, and we're talking about $6-7 million accounts, and they even ended up owing. So you see that shit all day, bro. You'll see that shit all day. But what can you do on an HKD? You know what I mean? It's, so I had as much sympathy for them as anybody else. Other people were quick to just be like, oh, you shouldn't have done that and blah, blah, blah. Like, if this is your bread and butter and this is what you fucking do every day, like, how are you going to, you know what I mean? There's some things that it just is what it is, man. It just is what it is. There's no explanation after that. I had a kid, and again, I bring this up because to come up with the reason of why it happened is where, when you're in a drawdown, most people just struggle with, right? Because you're looking for this why. And this why, it doesn't even matter even if you fucking had it, right? There was this kid here at the office, and he was a Forex trader. And a lot of people in Latin America, they start with Forex because, again, like you can get stupid 500-to-1 leverage on a fucking $100 account. And Sam, I'm sure you see this in London all day, every day. And in places in Europe and everything, everybody does Forex outside of the States. This kid started to do really well. He came in here. He was doing all his content and everything. Military kid, good kid. And he got in a car accident one fucking day and he died. And this was at 3 a.m. in the morning. He was celebrating, his success with his boys and everything. And he fucking died. And I got the news the next day, and I'm sitting there for weeks. I'm like, why the fuck? What? Like, why? Why does something like this happen? The more you sit there and try to figure out the reason, it ain't there. It's not there. It ain't there. And it's worthless spending the time to try to figure it out. These things just happen, So
and I think, you make a good point as well that however shit your day is, it could always be worse.
Bingo.
It could always be shitter. You still, hopefully you still got a house. You can still eat.
Oh, you're still alive.
Still alive. Yeah. No, it absolutely, exactly. So we started the conversation with cut losses quickly. Is that the best advice for newer traders, or perhaps is there something a bit more?
Touched up on this last week or 2 weeks ago, but it's not about just cutting the losses, but it's like cutting them right at the right areas. You know, like cutting them short doesn't mean much because it could be at just random spots based on what you perceive is a lot or a little, depending on what your maximum loss is. But it's not really where you should have stopped out. So I think it's more about cutting losses right. You know, if that means putting less into the stock and the trade, then so be it. You can't say you want to put this amount of your account into it if the stop loss is 10-20% away. Because I do see people who will mention that they buy something at 22 with a stop loss at 20, and that's a decent percent stop loss. So I mean, you have to have that balance between what you're putting in and then what your stop loss is going to be once you're in there. So it's all basically about that. But you also don't want to be putting it at 22 and cutting it at 21.80 because you want heavy size. Because 21.80 may not make sense. You may need to move that stop loss back to 21.60 and still be in it. You know what I'm saying? Like instead of stopping out with that short leash, you could still be in it. And now it's at 25, and you got stopped out at 21.70. But if you just put it at 21.60, where the right place was to be based on either support or low of day or whatever it may be, that was really the place, not because you wanted to put more size and raise it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the most important aspects of trading is when you enter a trade is where am I wrong? When should I get the hell out? And I think, that would be my advice as well. Just know where you're wrong and don't be adding when you're wrong, because that's when you get in an absolute lot of trouble. So I think that's a good point to wrap up that segment. And tonight's hot take, I think this is a really interesting one because I think it really splits. I'm really interested in what the three of you think. We'll start with you saying, do you learn more from success or failure? Putting you on the spot.
I mean, the answer is always failure. It's always the right. That's always the right answer. You know what I'm saying? Because success. All right, let's look at it this way. Success is a culmination of the discipline, habits, and the work, right? Because nobody talks about the work. And again, these were all these Hindu books that my father kind of passed down to me. And Hindus always have, it's just a way of life, so to speak. There was never any Bible per se. It was just a book on the way you should be, right? And one of the things they would always say is, if you perfect the means, then you never have to worry about the result, right? The results eventually going to come. So success to look at it, right? So let's say, what was homeboy's name? And I can never pronounce it, man. He's Norway. He was hat traded for a cause.
Oh, you mean Kulamagi, do you?
Kulamagi.
He's Swedish.
Sorry.
Don't let it go. If he's watching, he's going to be angry.
I mean, what's he going to do? He's going to take his yacht over here.
He's going to take his yacht to Puerto Rico, yeah.
Shit ain't going to happen. If you look at a man like that, right? You could look at him. You could look at how he dresses. You could look at how simple his strategy is. You could look at how nonchalantly he talks about a 10-bagger where he made $40 million or whatever. And what are the thoughts that come to your head, right? You see a man like this. You're like, all right, this is what's possible. This is what's possible, right? And this is inspiring because it does show me what's possible, right? But the beauty of it all, or all of it, comes from the actions, the everyday actions, the everyday thoughts, the everyday discipline, the everyday execution, and all that kind of stuff. That's where what you're seeing comes out from, right? So if you perfect the means, aka the everyday bullshit that nobody wants to fucking talk about and nobody shows about on Instagram because it's not, you can't quantify it, then the success will be there, right? So what do you really learn from the success? The success was always going to come anyway. And plus, if you talk to anybody, they've already lived 90 million versions of success in their head anyway, without having it, right? Because that's all they've been fucking thinking about. That's all they've been fucking thinking about. Every day they wake up, that's all they've been fucking thinking about. They've been thinking about that instead of, hey, I got to work on this, and this today in order to get said success, right? So instead of working on the plan, so to speak, your mind is already thinking about what you're going to do when you get there, right? That's most people. And, so I would say unequivocally here, you learn way more from the failures, because the failures is what shows you, all right, I need to fix this, this, and this to get to here. Jordan even said it himself. He would say it all the fucking time. I think the one going around now is like, what's going to happen if you shoot this basketball? It's either you hit it or you don't hit it, right? It's one of the fucking two. And if you don't hit it, it doesn't mean you're less of a person. It doesn't mean blah, 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 blah. It just means you got to work. You got to do this, 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 and this in order to hit it when the moment counts. And, so that's what most people don't look at. So success is very blinding. Success is it's inspiring. 100%. It's inspiring. It makes you want to do the work to a certain degree. But where's the lesson isn't there until you miss. You got to miss. You have to miss to know what it is to win. And that's my opinion.
No, that's a great point. The only caveat I would say is I still think there's tons to learn from, success and from particularly trading from winners. But there are examples, and let's just take not to dwell on it, but we take China liquidation plays.
Sure.
You can make money every single time, and then you get one that goes crazy, halts up, opens up 200 higher, and you're gone.
Yeah.
So I do think there's an element of you still have to review winners intensely. Chris, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I would say keeping a balanced view, because you need to learn from both in order to actually grow as a trader. And so, like Sang was saying, really learning from failure and never thinking that you're past failure. No matter what stage someone's at, whether it's with trading or in life or anything, you will encounter failure in some regard. And so being mentally prepared for that, and then also having the humility to say that I can still be impacted by failure regardless of what I've done in the past. I think that helps people to stay sharp and not to, fall into overconfidence or to make mistakes. And so learning from all your failures, and then being aware that you can also experience failure in a number of different ways throughout your life. So I think that's very important. And then also focusing on success to help to keep you motivated and also to keep your confidence, because if you spend too much time just dwelling on failure and what not to do, that it can drag you down emotionally. And so you also need to balance that with, not only do I know what success is like, but I know that I can get there even if I'm not there right now. And so kind of having that target in mind, or that goal in the far off distance, and then knowing that if you encounter failure, you can still overcome that. But I noticed that when traders are doing exceptionally well, and especially when people are doing well, they tend to branch out and learn new things, as they should. And so they'll go into new strategies. And I compare it to imagine Michael Phelps, who's a world class swimmer, having all the success, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to start playing pickleball. And it's certain things, they don't translate. And so you might be an incredible athlete, you might be an incredible trader, you might have your sport, whether it's short selling or small caps or whatever. But when you branch out into a new sport or a new thing, just like an athlete going into a different sport, you can't have the same mindset that I'm the best in the world, or, I know exactly what to do with this, because as you're growing, you really can get humbled and brought back down to, more of a beginner level in some ways. And so I would say that focusing on success and failure is key for that.
I would say swimmers well paid could even afford to outbid Sang on the board. I don't know. I'm not sure. Judah, anything you'd like to add?
I agree with the balance, and I think it's less about success and failure, and more about to do and not to do. So you need to know what you should do and what you should avoid. So for me, looking at the success is more of the technicals and the charting and the rules on when I need to sell and take profits and stop out. And then the failures and the don't do's is don't trade pre-market maybe, or don't chase these stocks that have news, and look at the full picture before diving into things. So it's just a balance between the two of what to do and what not to do. And once you have that list, it just becomes a full overview of the trader that you are. So I think that's the most important part. It's a balance between the two.
Yeah, no, great point. But in saying though, one thing I always, talking about those failures, and there's sometimes though, over analysis can lead to paralysis, and there's definitely points where you can like study, let's say, a losing trade for hours and hours and hours, but sometimes they just don't work, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And then other times it was you that messed up. You know what I mean? And how much did you factor that up? Into all the equations, and that's absolutely, man. There's an over analysis sort of a place there as well. So, I think Chris had the best answer. A balance of both is the key. But then this leads the question: who really has that balance here? I mean, Judah is talking about, hey, don't trade the pre-market. Now, let's go ahead and analyze Judah every single fucking day and see if he actually didn't trade the pre-market every single day. You know what I'm saying? So what is that balance? And what is it like to live on that balance? What is it like to live on that fine line of the balance that we speak of? And what does it look like when you deviate from that plan, right? Are there good consequences? Are there bad consequences? I would imagine there's both. There's a little bit of luck on both sides. That's kind of where I'm going from, right? Because I'll always go to the existential humanness of all this stuff. Right? I mean, Judah can sit there and say, and again, I'm not picking on you, bro. I'm just using you as an example.
Yeah, all good.
Judah can say to himself, all right, I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. Does that really mean he's not going to do it? Well, I mean, why did he write patience and put it on his fucking screen? Does that really mean, obviously he needs patience, and obviously there are times where he doesn't have the patience. And then what happens when he doesn't have the patience? You know what I'm saying? So I'll break it down to the humanness of all this, right? And the fallibility of us at being us. And that's where I want to go to find the solutions, right? Because right now the solutions, unfortunately for most of us, is don't do this and do more of this. Now, sure, there are times where you want it, you fucking on it. And there are other times where you might tell yourself whatever the fuck it is you want to tell yourself, but you're still gonna do the same things that got you into that problem in the first place. So that's where I'm headed. I'm headed to a more, what is it about us kind of thing? What is it about the humanness of it? And coming up with the solutions from that angle. And a lot of it, especially with this AI stuff that's going on right now, I think can be solved with some souped up AI stuff, with some souped up hybrid automation and retail, right? Because nobody can take away who we are and what we see, right? And I mean, that's my edge. We're talking about got edge here. Shout out to Centerpoint for the shirts, and Sam's also got one too. My edge is my read, right? And nobody can take that away. Nobody can take that away from me. A computer can't fucking read what I can read. There's no way. It doesn't have all the inputs that I have unless you teach it, which we're talking 20 years from now. Maybe that'll happen. But a computer can damn sure step in where I lose my capabilities of doing what I need to do. So there's a marriage here between the two that I think this world, you guys and I, we need to find. So those are the things that I'm looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think I've got about 5 of those T-shirts. Perks of being like the only dude who can fit in a double XL at Traders for a Call. End of the session. Yep, you just take them all, Sam. Yep, I will take them. Cool. So it sounds like we are sitting on the fence and saying, yeah, both. And balance is good. Yeah, I like that. That sounds like a good outcome. At the beginning of the show, I promised big losses, which we've spoken about, losers. I also said options, and that is our next topic. And Lucci, you spoke about this year at Traders for a Cause, about how the options dynamic has sort of changed in the last sort of 5 or so years.
Yeah. Oh, you're asking?
Well, yeah, I was thinking, what is it that has changed so greatly? And I mean, everyone talks about zero DTEs. That seems to be like, I don't know, that's like the new cool thing. I mean, it was probably cool a few years ago. But.
Well, it still is. I mean, if you look at the volume, let's even look at the volume today, right? So the volume today for at the money SPXs, and we're talking about SPX, which is the ETF basically. SPY is 10-1 of this particular contract, and we'll look at the both of them, right? We're trading around 5,000 SPX right now. There's 35,000 contracts traded on one line, and that's the call side. And if you look on every single other line that's close to the money, that right there, just on today's contracts alone here, that's several hundreds of millions of dollars. If you're looking on tomorrow's, you'll see the same thing, and so on and so forth. And then if you go to SPY, you'll see 100,000 of this. You'll see ridiculous numbers, 200,000 actually. 499's got 200,000, 290. So this is this is billions of dollars here getting traded every single day. Okay, and what it's doing, in my opinion, and I can't quantify it yet, or sort of make sense of it to the point where I can explain it, so to speak. But let's just say you would get a breakout before, right? And let's call it 10 years ago or whatever, before these zero DTEs existed. You'd get a breakout before, and generally speaking, it'd be clean in the sense of, all right, breakout, you get to follow through. Maybe you get a couple shakeouts here and there, but not as drastic as what we're seeing today. What you'll see today, because of these zero DTEs and because of this weird intraday volatility that we're seeing, even though VIX is trading at their fucking lows, right? VIX is trading at the fucking lows, but there's this, there should be another indicator of just straight intraday volatility, especially with some of these indexes, is that your option, let's say you got a weak option or something like that, it'll go on a breakout, right? It'll go from $1 to $3. And then they'll do a ridiculous spike back down way past whatever these sort of breakout levels are and everything, shake everybody out. But I'm talking about to a degree that nobody is prepared for. Those options will go to practically zero. And then the next day they'll go back to $4 and so on and so forth. So the volatility intraday that we're seeing on some of these options, long dated, it doesn't even matter, even the zero DTEs, it's just something you don't see in a bull, especially in a bull market. A clean bull market, let's say the one that we've seen after 2009, shit just goes up every day, similar to what it's doing now. But what it's doing now is massive intraday shakeouts that nobody is fucking ready for. So everybody wants to be long, but you're only making money on the option side long if you're holding on longer dated swings and you're doing that game, right? Scalping zero DTEs is now more of an intraday thing, versus coming out with a I guess a longer time plan. So if you're playing too short and you're trying to hold these things because you want the biggest juice on your option, right, which is what I used to do, and make 5x on a breakout and things like that, your timing's got to be impeccable, man. Shit's got to be impeccable. So it's making everybody kind of change habits that they've used to have for years here. And that's all because of the advent of these zero DTEs, man. Because think about it. If there's trillions of dollars at stake here for the market makers, and these guys are the ones that are pushing around the juice. And remember, you got retail traders still trying to trade these things because everybody wants, in seconds, everybody wants to double their, 2x, 3x on their money. You can't, nobody's ever going to make it easy for you, the retail guy, right? So the amount of games and manipulation you see on an intraday basis now is, I haven't seen it I've never seen it. I've never fucking seen it. And, it's causing a lot of us to have to change the way we think, change the way we act, change the decisions we make. It's changing everything. So that's what I'll say about it.
Yeah, that's cool. And Chris, has the market changed forever with zero DTEs?
It has changed forever, and it will change again. It's natural processes. What's happened since 2020 in the options market is that two things. One, the options volume, the amount of volume traded, has gone up exponentially, and that was with the big Tesla run, with everything like that. That's really when retail started to get very involved with options. And so, like we talk about, a stock or something that has layers of demand. In options, it's the same thing. And you had a giant layer appear out of nowhere, and that was the retail demand for options. Now, at the same time, you had that volume increasing from retail demand for options. You have places like Citadel or market makers or places like that are making options more fractional. And so while most options used to be mostly monthly, and then they brought it down to weekly, and then they brought it down to daily. And what we'll probably see is they'll probably do hourly options at some point. And the reason is 80% of all options expire worthless. Okay. And so the more that a market maker or someone who's selling options can basically do that and win over time, it's like having a slot machine with a 20% edge in the house's favor. It's like it doesn't matter if it's like a high roller slot machine or like a a 1 penny. It's like they want as many of those slot machines out there as possible. And so basically you have an increase in options volume, especially from retail. At the same time, you have more fractional options coming from the people who are selling options. And so that dynamic has really caused the tail to wag the dog. And so the stock market used to move the options market. The option market was more for hedging. And now the option market is the way that people are expressing their directional views. So if I think something's going to go up, instead of buying stock, I'll buy options on it. And when people are buying options, basically whoever is selling the options, they have to hedge that. And so this is going to get very slightly complicated. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. But
yeah, this is gamma. This is gamma here.
That's exactly. So this is a GEX or JEX, however you want to pronounce it. So basically, if someone is selling a bunch of options, the market maker takes that on. And so like, let's take the example of ARM, which is running today. Okay. Sure. So ARM had really good earnings, went from 80. And then this morning it opened up at, call it 100. Okay.
Yep.
So what happens is that a lot of people start to buy call options on that. And so for every buyer, there's a seller. And so the market maker is now basically holding those sold calls, or they're selling those calls that call it 100. Okay. If the stock keeps moving up, those calls are going against the market maker, and the market maker needs to basically hedge those by buying stock in the market. And so that is really what GEX or gamma exposure is. It's the hedging activities from the people selling the options is now driving the stock. And you see that in SPX, you see that in individual names, you see it all over the place. And so when you have these giant moves like with DWAC or with AMC or GME in the past, you have these gamma runs where basically the hedging activity of the people selling the options is now driving it up. And so while it used to just be a standard hedging thing, now it's actually driving it. And you have that happen all over the market now. And those GEX levels or those JEX levels, you could think about them as like equilibrium points. So if people think that the range for a stock is between 90 and 100, that will be the largest strikes for that stock. And then as it gets close to the upper end of that range, then you'll have more people sell it and you can keep it down. So it's a very interesting dynamic in the options world that's happening with all this. And it's going to get even more extreme, in my opinion.
Yeah, we even built a tool here for our users here. It's called the GEX tool. And then basically it just shows you where most of the volume is piling up on a particular chain or a particular name. And once they break through that volume and people continue to roll their options and they go higher or they go lower, if I'm the market maker, remember, I can see all this flow coming in. If I know I'm going to get hosed on this fucking on selling these options, what do I have to do? And remember, I have to stay delta neutral. I got no other choice. There's no way I'm going to hold this inventory here on the wrong side of this shit, especially when it can go triple X against me. So I sell all these options for $1 or $2. I know they're going to $6 on me. What am I going to do? Of course, I'm going to sell the stock or I'm going to buy the stock. I'm going to hedge or do what I have to do to stay neutral. That way I don't get hosed on the way up. Once everything's calmed down and I'm still selling and everything, it'll all come back for me. Remember, these guys got time and money at their disposal. Most retail traders don't. So they'll come out alive all day, and most of the time those options are going to fucking zero anyway. So that's the game now because there's so much options volume and it's much easier to track gamma levels now to kind of predict where you're going to get an outsized move and where you're going to get these big breaks and things like that. So absolutely. Chris, I didn't know you were an options guy, bro.
No, Chris is the man. But
I didn't know you were an options guy. I never met him till he said we met at Traders for Cause. I don't fucking remember. Probably because I'm half twisted the whole damn time.
You were drunk or getting outbid. It's one of the two. But like one thing that like sort of blows my mind a little bit, if 80% are worthless, why bother? Like this sounds like for like retail in general, like for the average guy, or lady, it sounds like it's a losing game and the market makers are just licking their lips and making a fortune.
It is. And that is what's happening. And so
but Sam, you can't really be asking that question. Like, are you really asking that question? You know what the fucking answer is. Are you really asking that question?
Well, you can just say you're a degenerate or whatever.
Trying to be in that 20%.
Hello. What have I been talking about this whole damn stream, man? It's the humanness of it all. It's the desires. It's the wants. It's another quick money thing. You know what's popping? You know what's popping right now? It's fucking sports betting. Sports betting is back on a rise. All the kids are sitting at their fucking universities here on Caesars and MGM and doing all this kind of stuff and just betting. They're betting all fucking day. And half of these wagers, of course, you know what's happening, man. You know what the deal is, bro. You know what it is, man.
I'm just trying to. Yeah, come on, take it away, Jimmy.
And by the way, look at the volume on these 0 DTEs, man. That's all the proof that you need, man. We are truly, one and truly degenerates. At the hearts of hearts, we are human, and those emotions can be pushed and pulled, and we see it every day, man. All they had to do was come up with these 0 DTEs, and who knew, man? Now the CBO has gotten globs of new commissions, new products that are going to be created, and now that they know the 0 DTEs work, imagine if these fucking hourly contracts go up. We're going back to the binary options. By the way, binary options already exist. You can make a bet that in 5 seconds, X, Y, and Z price has to be higher or lower than X, Y, and Z, and you'll make double your money. Right. And these products don't exist in the United States because the SEC doesn't want that shit here. But guess where else they exist? Everywhere outside of the fucking United States. They already have access to these products and they've been trading these stuff. And these binary options, what are they? They're just it's just thin air, bro. It's thin air. But they have some of the most ridiculous volumes that you've ever seen. All those funded trader accounts, those simulation accounts, bro, they've seen numbers that you and I could never see. Investors Underground, sang Lucci or whatever, we could never sell as many fucking subscriptions as a funded simulation account. Never. These guys are doing 30 million a month in funded sim accounts, bro. Because why? Nobody wants to use their own money to trade this shit. So fuck it. We'll take a run on $200 here and see what shot we get. Degeneracy at its finest.
You know, it's a more interesting statistic is like how many traders fail, which is even tighter than the amount that lose on options. Options is 80% expire worthless.
Sure.
And only 90% of traders, or I guess only 10% of traders make it, which is what they say. So 90% fail, yet everyone tries.
Yo, but on Instagram, that number is completely flipped, man. On Instagram, shit, 99% of traders, man.
Yeah.
But that's 80% require worthless. That's not saying that. I don't know how many actually end up, making money. I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I'd imagine options.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that's even. I don't know. What do you reckon that is? If I had to force you to put a percent on, how many routine option traders as a percentage? How many are making money?
I mean, shit.
Is it percent? Is it higher than that?
Back in the day, nobody's ever seen consistent options traders. But you know what it is, though, is that you have to also advance in your hedging strategies as well. If you're an options trader, you have to learn how to roll. You have to learn how to sell against your position. You have to learn how to do condors. You have to learn the gamma stuff. You have to learn all this kind of stuff. So, the evolution of an options trader has to be there. If you're running gunning on 0 DTEs, let's face it, lifespan is pretty short.
And I suppose that's the flip side as well, that if you're willing to put the effort in, actually, there's a lot of edge there. Because
much edge there.
You're up against the degenerates who are just like, finger in the air, which way's the wind going?
Sure.
Yeah, and then basing a strategy that is, size appropriate, risk appropriate. I mean, you see in the room, we've had a couple of options trades, and the first thing that I try to do is try to find a good moment in time to play something. And then as soon as it gets to a double, I make it free. And then I basically just try to run and manage the position from there. But my first priority is how do I get my money back? And how do I basically make this trade as stress-free and as risk-free as possible? So there are strategies to be able to profitably trade options. I mean, obviously, some people can do it, but it is very difficult. And the way that most people go about it, it's much more akin to gambling than it is to any kind of trading with edge.
Yeah. And now we're skipping a segment, but I think this is a really good point because Chris is the options guy. And I thought what you did this week was pretty genius, actually, just talking about how you reacted with puts with the banking crisis, for example.
Yeah, so that's last week I did the Sunday scan with Nate, and we talked about a whole bunch of subjects coming up for the week. And one of them that we touched on was the banking crisis. And so we were talking about like, success and failure and learning from all those things and, learning from cycles. And so we had in a very similar cycle last March in 2023 with the banking issues, and we got to see how that looked. You would have a bank that reported, bad numbers. They were, unstable. The stock price would tank. You'd start having huge put options roll in, or people basically betting on the stock going down further. And banking is a business where if the stock goes down, confidence goes down, that actually hurts them, as opposed to like a random, tech company or manufacturing company where the stock price doesn't affect their business. In banking, it actually does. And so you have this basically vicious cycle of bad news, the stock selling off, put positions. You can look at other things like the preferred shares, and you can see that those are going down. You can look at the bonds, what they're trading at. And so you can have all these clues that basically a bank is going down. And you can say, okay, now that I know that this bank is very likely to go down, what else will that take with it? What's that going to anchor behind it? And that's going to take down the regional banking ETF. That will take down similar names and similar sectors, maybe with CRE or real estate, stuff. So I basically look for, if something's happening, what are the other things that are going to move, and then try to position myself to basically get those things to play catch up. And so that's what I did with KRE and puts this week.
Yeah, I thought that was smart. Did you take that trade, Lucci?
No, I watched the NYCB though, and by the way, and again, options flow is also part of Gamma and all this kind of stuff. So I watched them light up NYCB puts as soon as the news came out. $6, $5, $2.50, and everything. You'll see that quite a lot because again, once the volatility kicks up, it doesn't even matter if you're right. Even if you get 25 cents in your favor here, your options are up 50%. So they'll go for that IV explosion here. So everything is about timing here when you hit those options. So Chris saw it. He's an options guy. He knows.
He's good, and he called it out on, like you said, he called it out on Sunday Scan. And what did you make on those puts in the end on KRE? Like you said at one point, you were up 100% and letting the rest ride, I think.
Yeah, at 100%, I sold half, and so got all my capital back. And then I had another tranche sold at 200%, and then another tranche today that I closed it out. I only had a handful left, and the initial position was at 52 cents per contract, and I sold out the last ones at 75 cents because it started to work its way back. So all in all, probably 175% on the position or so.
Man, that's really cool. So I think I may have skipped onto that, but I just thought, I don't know if we want to talk any more about the banking crisis, or Jude, I don't know if you were anything.
I think the most important to note out of the banking crisis is that nobody gives a shit. Another bank in the fucking dust, and nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares in this market. Nobody gives a flying fuck about New York Central Bank, and we just keep buying. We just keep going up. I think that's a larger conversation. But maybe that's maybe me being pissed off that we can't even get a bear market to save our lives here, And I thrive in the bear market, so maybe that's just me being a negative Nancy.
Yeah, maybe that is it. Yeah, Chris, I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to add on NYCB, or was that pretty much everything?
No, like Sang was just mentioning, it is different than March, because in March it was so widespread and there was actual fear in the market, but now it's much more isolated. And so you can see, even after a couple of days of selling off, you can see the rest of the names, as long as they're not reporting the same kind of numbers, they're starting to drift back up. So
Jamie Dimon already came in and said, "Yo, let me scoop this up." It's like I think they have like 115 billion in assets, and compared to JP Morgan, which has like 1.4 trillion, so I don't know. You also saw a lot of other people copping or buying different bank like Schwab puts and things like that. Other stuff that was at risk during the regional bank crisis that we had before. But as Chris said, it's different. It's different now. We swallowed it up and pushed it aside real quick.
Yeah, and to be honest, just from an outsider looking in, it just seems like you're moving to like a more like European model. Like in the UK, we don't really have small banks. We have the big banks, and that's kind of it. And it seems like you're slowly, perhaps, I know they're going to deny that, but it just seems like you're slowly, that you said the big banks are just consuming these little ones. No, cool. No, great, man. I think that's just such a great example. You called it out on Sunday and then you traded it and you made 200%. It's pretty mad. That's pretty cool. And guys, just a reminder that you can, well, we're all in Investors Underground, investorsunderground.com/trading takes. Even Sang's in there sometimes. We see you popping around
I'll
sometimes.
pop in every once in a while. I have it up all the time, so I'm watching.
Yeah, saying what value do you get from the room? Like you get to see the new tech that's out there. You get to see the live commentary from people like Nate and some of us. So what do you think of the room?
I love it because, but again, I put faces to names. You know what I'm saying? So I know a lot of the people that are chatting in there. So the fact that I can put the face to the name makes all the difference. It makes all the difference for me because I know these people and I know, you know what I mean? I know what size they're throwing around, and there's some fucking hot shots in there. And that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. You want to see those guys. Those are the guys that you want to see. And those are the guys that you want to listen to, or at least hear their perspective. So that's why chat rooms, especially for guys like us, I mean, they're never going to go anywhere. They're so crucial to our infrastructure and how we spend our days. You know what I mean? I personally think so. I mean, again, there's a lot of traders that you just never hear from, and because they totally do their own thing. They don't care about anything else, and I respect that as well. But for the ones that are online and everything, this is where we live. We all live in chat rooms for fucking 8-10 hours a day. Think about that. We spend 8 and 10 hours a day talking to people that we don't get to see physically. That shit is kind of weird when you think about it. It's kind of fucking weird. And when you spend that much time with certain people, you start to develop an understanding about how they trade, how you can kind of work on trades together, and again, this is a whole SMB thing popping back up. But again, SMB actually puts money behind it. Like they're pod trading. They do the pod trading where they have 4 or 5 traders trading together and they have they're coming up with ideas together. Oftentimes inside of a chat room, you'll find new strategies. It'll just open up your mind into other ways that you can do shit, which I think is super important for any trader. Especially starting out, or even folks that are already been in the game. Folks that are already been in the game, by the way, they always have an ear to the street about what the hype name is or whatever, because they want to come in because they're the fucking sharks, man. So they need a bunch of goldfish sitting around here, just talking, right? And just from there, just from energy, pure energy, you can pick up a trade, man. So the chat rooms are the central point to all of it, man. So, Investors Underground, shit, man. You guys have been around. Nate's been around forever, man. Remember, I know this man. You know what I mean? I'm from the same places as this man. So it's different.
You two go way back, right?
We go way back. So for me, the personal side of it is so much more important. And then when I can actually see them trade X, Y, and Z, there's more value that I get out of it. So again, it's just another great chat room, good traders, different strategy altogether. But again, you got guys like Chris in there, who's a complete options guy. I had no idea. This is a complete options guy here. I don't know what the fuck you're doing in that chat room. But again, he's getting his value out of it 100%. I started to realize too, some of the options that come out, like when that HKD finally crashed, some of my biggest money was made off of that, and the options that hopped out off of that. Some of my biggest money has been made off of AMC, GME options. A lot of all the small cap stuff that comes out. There's spots, man. There's spots that you'll see. Maybe 5 or 10 names out of the year, man. Big fucking shit that happens in your world. And when the options come out, you can start to see things, man. They won't open options out farther out until, let's say, the next day. And then all of a sudden, you'll see 9 other strikes. You'll see tons of other strikes left out. And then for the same reasons that Chris and I were talking about, for gamma squeezes and things like that, finally, it's a way for people to hedge. If you give somebody a way to hedge, it almost opens up the path for the stock to go there. There's weird shit that happens, man, once you throw in the options and a small cap thing. So I think there's massive edge in small caps and options, provided they are there. Granted, there's risks here because there's high liquidity. There's not a lot of strikes out there. There's not a lot of volume and all that kind of stuff. But when everything converges, man, you can find some fucking hot shit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just a reminder, investorsunderground.com/trading takes. Sign up and call out Lucci and see if you can find him, and then outbid him on something. Let's talk about this week. what's working. Judah, what's worked so well for you this week?
This week, I think it was just taking these like these earning gaps. I mean, we have
nice. That shit's been
Palantir. Palantir on day one.
Yep.
I mean that
shit's on day 4.
volume. Yeah, now we're on day 3 here, but the volume, the news, the chart itself. I mean, we know how this runs in the past. Back in May, we had that gap up, beautiful move and breakout, and it followed through. And like this is the type of stock that it is. Even when they IPO'd, it had a great run. And when it trends cleanly. So that was something I took, and I'm still in. I sold a little piece today, and I am holding the rest until I don't know, until maybe it gets to that 28, 30 level, or until it fails hard. We have ARM, which is breaking out to new IPO highs today.
Yep.
Like these earning plays are working, and like this is another one, and this is hitting all-time highs from a recent IPO. We have TGTX. Oh no, sorry, not TGTX. VKTX, which is another one that's breaking out to like pretty much all-time highs as well. If you go to the daily, yes. So that had earnings last night, and this has been working. I mean, even from where your cursor is now, like that breakout, and it's really a combo between breakouts and like earning gaps that have been doing well now. I feel like the biotech ones, they don't really follow through so much right now. Like a lot of them are like going one day and selling off, and then maybe liquidity traps, but it's really just the earnings right now on like these larger names. And then you have those random small cap movers that we've just been having all year long, like five-day grinders that are very difficult to get into unless you look at like more like hourly or 30-minute charts. Then you can potentially get into them. But like right now, there's a lot of things working. The markets are hitting highs, and there's no fear out there right now. You could see it, you could feel it as well.
Yeah, great points. And Chris, you've touched on what's been working for you. Has anything else been working as well?
Yeah, just the anchor concept. So the banking was one where you have, the ship is the one bank going down, then the anchor is kind of what it drags with it. And I did the same thing with Bitcoin and Mara. So it was on watch from Sunday as well, where Bitcoin's been consolidating for the last month or so and finally started to ramp up towards the upper end of the range. And so you could see that, demand while starting to rise and the stocks were lagging. And so my thesis was if Bitcoin, breaks out for, to 45 or something, then Mara and everything is going to play catch up, because Mara and a lot of those stocks, they almost perpetually have 20 to 25% short interest on them. And so when they do play catch up, a lot of times you get a move of, 10, 15, 20%. And so what I'll do is if I can sniff out basically a move in Bitcoin coming, I can position with options or other things in Mara. And if I'm wrong, then, the options really don't go down that much because they haven't moved yet. They're just still consolidating. But if I'm right, then I can catch a 200 or 300% move on it. So I was able to gap Mara from yesterday to today. I had the 18 calls, and those did well.
I made the same trade. This morning, except I just didn't have it overnight. So again, he preempted it, and I just bought coin off the open today and caught a double on any of the options. You could have picked any one of them.
Nice. And what else have you been trading this week, or has that mainly been your focus?
It's just again similar to what Judah's been talking about. There ain't no damn fear here, man. So you just got to find the sector that they rotate into every single day. There's a new rotation today. Bitcoin names, and then some of the underbelly tech stuff like Shopify, like ARM. The PLTRs and all that kind of stuff. Large cap tech is not really doing anything. Banks ain't doing shit. And then you have these out of the these names that just pop out of nowhere. Look at fucking Disney today. Disney is at $113. This is a stock that nobody gave a shit about for God knows how long. Everybody thought it was going to $50, and now you got a complete shift in perception, complete shift in everything. It's similar to what happened with the PLTR. Again, like people don't buy it until it's smack right dab in your face. So that earnings breakout shit, that shit's been working like clockwork, man. Again, even on the large cap stuff. Netflix posts earnings or Meta posts earnings. You have that 2-day run. things like that. I mean, look at this fucking Disney, man. Nobody's going to those theme parks. Who the fuck is going to those theme parks? They lose money on every fucking movie they come out with. They literally do. And this thing is screaming to the high heavens. Why? Because everybody's been stuck short for God knows how long. Now it's, oh my God, we have a partnership with Taylor Swift. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out of your short.
Yeah, but that reminds me of, and I've spoken about this before, and you just touched on Meta. Like Meta, when every single person in the world hated Zuckerberg. Everyone hated Zuckerberg.
Because of the metaverse.
Yeah, but they hated him. And then all of a sudden, bang, we're at like, I'm not saying Disney's going to be the same.
I mean, they also had that Fortnite, which
now check it out. Now
you're gonna iPhone.
You're gonna see Mickey Mouse with a damn AK, and now you're gonna be able to buy the skins. You're gonna be able to buy a Fortnite skin with Mickey Mouse, and you know what I mean, and Goofy with a machine gun and shoot somebody. You know what I mean? Shoot somebody in the fucking head with a headshot on a sniper rifle.
It's interesting because like Tim Cook and Iger being friends, like they had that issue with Epic Games and Apple. So that would be something
I didn't know that
as well. If they could get back onto the iPhone, that would be huge because they're not there. Like you can't play Fortnite right now on the iPhone.
I didn't know that.
If they could add into it, that would be huge as well. And I mean, it's a big. I don't know how big that is for everything else that they announced yesterday, but that's another thing. 1.5 billion into Epic Games is just another piece of.
Yep.
They didn't have that before.
Yep.
They didn't have. I don't think, unless you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but there was no investments in real like gaming companies before then. This Fortnite was the biggest game like ever for a long time.
Yeah, still is, man.
Like I've been playing since season 1.
Yo, I'm on it now. Like I'm playing because of my daughter. Like my daughter plays now, so she'll invite me and shit. So I'm just playing because of her. But dude, I am fucking addicted, bro. Like I love that. Like I love playing Fortnite, bro. I love just sitting there, and I love just sitting there, getting guns and shooting people, and just sitting there for fucking hours and hours playing.
So are you good? Can you actually shoot people though? Saying, are you good?
100%. I'm good. I get the victory royales every once in a while, bro.
Right.
I get them.
So you're gonna be running around like Mickey Mouse soon with an AK then?
Actually, you know what? Who my character is for Disney? Damn. Disney's got so many characters now, though. You know what I mean? They got so many, man. So I don't even know, man. But as soon as you log into Fortnite now, and you go to the item shop or whatever the hell it is, and you go to look at the skins and all that kind of stuff and the dances and shit like that. Imagine, like, you're going to pay. How much are your kids going to pay for your Goofy to dance like X, Y, and Z? How much are your kids? You know what I'm saying? That's all we're talking about here. And we're talking about potentially billions of dollars. By the way, that also proves how much we are absolutely fucking degenerates, Sam. So we're still going back to the same conversation.
I mean, there's definitely a theme tonight.
We're just going in a cycle here. I'm just trying to get everybody else on board to my degenerate.
Like Roblox, because Roblox just had earnings.
Roblox just had earnings, and it's the same thing, bro.
You gotta see this. I'm gonna share this now. But like, if you look at this chart here, look at this base that we've just been in for
this could be huge
2 years. And I have nieces and nephews that play this game. It's their birthday. All they want is Robux.
That's it. Give me the Robux.
All they want is Robux. And especially with like now the metaverse. If you could put on these Apple Vision Pros and start interacting instead of being in the game, through the Apple Vision Pros or out there, like gaming could change everything.
Yeah.
Which is another thing for Disney with their trying to get into the gaming. So between Disney and Roblox and all these gaming companies and what Apple is doing with the Pro and what they're doing with AI and VR in general, I think it's just a very interesting field.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that will do well. Like I don't play much, but I play a little bit of Warzone, and you get like Snoop Dogg and Nicki Minaj running around with an AK. So people, I mean, I wouldn't want to. I don't really see the appeal, but people do. People obviously have too much money. The degenerates with too much money. That's probably what it comes back to. Right. Let's move on to I say moving on. Let's just circle back and remind everyone. Comment below your aha moment in trading, and whilst we're doing it, Sang, what are your moments that sticks out? What are my
aha moments?
Aha moment, yeah. Maybe you can win a free month. We'll bolt it onto your subscription.
Man, Nate already. Come on, man. I asked Nate. Come on, man. That's
We
just,
know you're not
this
paying.
is
We
the
know
least
you're not.
amount of shit. My aha moment was more of a self-realization than anything. I mean, it wasn't trading in particular or whatever. Because again, like you know, and again, these questions are so fucking hard to answer. And I got to be honest, I hate answering these questions because to me, I don't think it helps anyone. Why? And I'll tell you why. Because like there's so much of this information out there, and everybody's looking for this sort of one answer. And it is so particular to somebody, right? Because I cannot understand where somebody else is coming from, the information that they have, how they've been able to process it. Everything is different for every single person. However, with that in mind, my aha moment was more of a personal thing. It was more of understanding myself and understanding why I do certain things, and then understanding the influences and how to, and how to more zero in on a particular strategy versus trying to do so much. Trying to zero in on one or two strategies that are really working and really just cut everything else out. Those were some of my big realizations. But again, I lost those realizations and had to find them again and again and again, because again, it's difficult to stay in that lane, right? Because as Chris was saying, you learn more as you make money. I mean, after my first couple million, you start to branch out. You start to want to do other things, and you can do other things because you got all this fucking money. What else are you going to do with it, right? So you do other things. And then you get hit in the ass again, and then you're like, oh shit, I got to go back to one thing, or I got to go back to two things. And so on, the cycle repeats. I mean, of course there are those people that are so good at this that's it. They just do that one thing and that's it, and they rack it up, man. And props to them. That's one big issue that I have. As soon as things are doing good, I start to lump on a lot of other things on top of my shoulders, and then it proves to be difficult to handle those things over time. So again, aha moments for me is more about myself, understanding how my emotions and how my thoughts are working while I'm in good trades or bad trades. And that's what I would say.
Great answer. And so we asked a few members of the IU community, and we basically said, look, we got sang on, what are your questions? And we picked a few of the good ones. So this is from Taco Money. What's up, Taco? Do you get burned out from trading? And if so, how do you deal with that whilst being able to execute at a high level?
Say that again.
Do you get burned out from trading? And if so, how do you deal with that and still maintain?
Man, you get burned out. I get burned out with life every day. Why? Because I lump so much on my shoulder. I mean, again, these are more life questions here, right?
I think most of these
are more life questions here. What life do you want to live? What life do you want to live? Do you want to live a strict, hey, this is all I'm doing type of life and dump everything else? Or do you want to live an extremely passionate life, going through all kinds of things and dealing with all kinds of problems and solutions? What kind of life do you want to live? So do I get burnt out? Of course, man. Of course I get fucking burnt out. Shit, I'm burnt out right now, man, as I'm talking to you. I'm burnt out doing this damn stream with your ass.
We're trying to wrap it up. We'll get there.
You know what I'm saying? But of course, I think the way that you got to go about it is just the attitude and the energy that you bring to all this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like you asked for it. You asked for this shit. I asked for this shit. You asked for this shit. So if you're gonna do it, just fucking do it, man. So yes, absolutely, it's easy to get burnt out, and yes, absolutely, what it does is it causes emotions, it causes thoughts, and then that transfers into attitude and energy and all that kind of stuff. Try to nip it in the bud as soon as you have that thought, as soon as you have that feeling of being burnt out. And by the way, I live in Puerto Rico. I go to the beach and I play beach tennis, and I'm fucking good, man. Nobody can touch me, man. It doesn't matter if I take a loss or some bad shit happens. If I'm on the beach, shit, man. Take one breath and look at the beauty in front of you. Who fucking cares? Who gives a shit about any of it? So it's kind of those setbacks here that you feel, and you toss that thought out along with the rest of them that don't that don't equate to shit. And if you feel super burnt out, then yeah, you got some things you got to do. Maybe you got to take some things off your plate. You take some things off your plate, you reassess, but you got to keep going. You have to keep going. You got to keep going. There's no other there's no other answer there. You fucking keep going.
No, absolutely. And I know most of these questions are for Sang, but Chris, Judah, just simple. Do you guys get burned out as well?
I don't think I've ever got burnt out.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
My man.
Wherever I am, I try to show up and be there.
There you go.
Chris?
Yeah, I've definitely been burned out before, but I think changing my relationship with trading from being I need to trade, I need to do all these things, I have to get this done, to basically being like, no, I want to trade from a position of strength, from a position of calmness, and I only want the market to basically serve me, and I don't want to be a slave to it. So there's a great like analogy that I think helps, and this is like partly an aha moment and partly just something to help you maintain a good relationship with trading, but it's what I call like clearing the stands. And so imagine if you're like in a boxing match and it's like you and your opponent, and it's like you're focused on just like doing the absolute best that you can. But all of a sudden, like your entire family and like your mortgage broker and like your credit card company and like all these people are like in the stands watching you, and like you feel that pressure coming on, and you have, what's this going to feel like after? What if I fail? What if I don't do it? And like you pack the stands with all these things that have nothing to do with the trade. Sure. And you become so focused on a lot of those that you lose sight of just what's the task in front of you. So just clearing the stands and basically just emptying out everything except what you're doing right in that moment. And then when that moment's done, let it go and go back to those other things. But that's a really helpful tip.
What's Chris's name in the chat here real quick?
Chris L.
Yeah, Chris L.
You got a fan, kid. I like
you. Poor me and Judah. Right, next question. Moving on quickly. So this question, I've got to shout out MC Trading, because MC Trading was long, HOLO, yesterday from like 360, and I think sold most in after hours. So monster trade. And she asked, Sang, if your daughter wanted to get into trading, what advice would you give her for succeeding in a mostly male-dominated field?
She already doesn't want to get into this shit anyway, but she has a business mind. She has my mind. You know what I mean? So she'll analyze things. She'll break things down, and she wants the finer things in life. Good God, this girl is so damn bougie, man. She wants the finer things in life. So obviously, she knows what she has to do to get it. Yeah. She knows what she has to do to get it. I think it's tough. It's tough for. I will say that hands down for. I'll say it depends on your emotional makeup as a woman, right? It's like, do having conversations with men affect you internally, or do they just roll off yourself? Because again, you're willing to accept that we are different. Our mental makeups are different. The things we choose to do is different. What motivates us is different. And you allow men to be men, and it doesn't affect you, right? Unfortunately, in this day and age, and I'm not afraid to say this shit, unfortunately, in this day and age, it's like we've got to the point where we get disturbed. We get angry, we get annoyed about the opposite sex, especially women versus men, and actually, I'll say men versus women as well. All that content is coming out now. And is it difficult for a woman to thrive, I guess, in the trading world? Especially, let's just take the chat room, right? Because let's face it, we're talking about traders here. You sit in a fucking chat room all day, right? So you got to sit there and listen to how guys speak. And guys speak in a certain tone, and they speak in a certain way, and that rubs off wrong or incorrectly, so to speak, or it rubs women in a certain way. So if that does not affect you, you can thrive 100%. There's no barrier here at all with whether or not you can thrive. If it affects you, then you got other problems here, because you're not going to be able to focus sitting in that chat room. It's going to affect you in a certain way where it'll affect your performance and things like that. So get beyond that, I would say. So to her, that would be my advice. Dudes are going to be dudes. Dudes are going to be dudes. They're going to say dumb shit. They're going to do dumb shit. She already hates dudes already, kind of thing. She doesn't hate him, but she also understands that there's things about him that she'll never understand, and she'll always be annoyed and all that kind of stuff. So I've already had extensive conversations with her about all this stuff, you know. So I don't know, man. This is a conversation that has many different legs and could go in many different places. But to your question, how to thrive in a male dominated world, is fuck men. If you want to thrive in a male dominated world, that's how you got to think. Fuck men. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit if they're a man or this? At the end of the day, there's money on the table. And if you can show that you got game, nobody gives a flying fuck if you're a woman, a dog, a chocolate person, a vanilla person. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. At the end of the day, do you make money? If you do, everybody shuts the fuck up. Nobody cares. So
Market don't care.
That's what's that?
The market don't care either.
The market doesn't give a shit,
Market
right?
don't care.
So the woman's challenge is obviously a lot bigger than the male challenge, because why? It's difficult to just let go of your, you know, of your feelings as to how we should talk, how we should act, and all that kind of stuff. You ain't gonna control that. You're never gonna control that. We just like we can't control how y'all act. All right. I got my girl sitting over here. I can't stand her. I haven't even said a word to her in the last 2 hours. I can't fucking stand her. Right. But what do you want me to do here? You know what I mean? Like we all have to coexist together. Right.
Yeah.
So you have to get past all that. You get past all that bullshit. At the end of the day, it's, do you make money or don't you? Do you got a strategy or do you not? That's it. That's it. That's all anybody gives a shit about.
Well, we know MC makes money because she probably had one of the longs of the year. And the last question, we are quickly running out of time, and we had to end on this question. How is your stand-up career going? And that's from Nick, Nick the sniper, one of the mods in IU.
I'm writing, man. I'm writing every day. And I'm starting to realize like there's time to this. There's time, and there's crafting, there's practice, and all this kind of stuff. So I have to allow myself that time to practice. And I've been going to certain spots down here to just kind of practice. I also MC a lot of tournaments. So that gives me a lot of practice. That gives me a lot of live practice and kind of on the fly practice. So, I'm working on it. I'm definitely working on it. And it's something that I'm going to weave in through, my other businesses that I have. And hopefully in a couple of years, you'll see me on stage after I got some crafted material.
We'll see you on stage, talking about Ozempic probably.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That first special is going to be all about degeneracy at its highest forms. And by the way, I mean, I see it everywhere. I see degeneracy in us and how we act everywhere now, whether it's Ozempic or whether it's fucking trading or, whatever it is, man. It's crazy.
I can't wait for the Netflix special. I'll definitely watch that.
100%, man. 100%. It'll come. I don't know when, but it'll come.
That's some big money there. And I'll be there in the front row when you're in London on the world tour. That pretty much wraps up tonight. Thank you, Seng, for giving us, giving up the time. It's been, I've just been smiling throughout. It's been a hilarious episode. Just to remind everyone, like, subscribe, and share your aha moments to win a free month by you. Thank you all for your time. Happy trading, guys. Speak to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Sang.